Hello, BookTube. I settled my sweet old dog first thing this morning and went out to do some errands, which is always fun, even when it's a little warm in Boston. I mailed a bunch of books to a bunch of you. Had some editorial encounters, and they were really positive. And made my way back here in short order, took care of my sweet old dog again, and encountered a giant pile of books. So I thought we'd open the mail together. I'm very glad you're all here so that we can do that instead of just me opening them on my own. And I thought once again I would remind you that if you of two things. If you see something in this pile of books that you really, really want, I mean, something that is right up the alley of one of your interests and that you definitely want to read, then let me know in the comments field. I have to deal with quite a few of these things myself, but when I'm done doing my duty by them, most of them I will not keep. So they might as well go to you. And number two, if you're interested in reviewing something here, or is anything that you see that's new on this channel, if you're interested in trying your hand at reviewing something for an audience, let me know, and I'll be happy to try and help. But anyway, let's see what we have here. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. So we'll start with this one here, from Harvard University Press. Oh goodness. Oh my. All right, so this comes out in October. The onslaught of Russian Revolution books simply does not let up. This is the anniversary. 2017 is the 100-year anniversary. This is by Tsuyoshi Hasegawa, Crime and Punishment in the Russian Revolution. A slim thing from Harvard University Press. This is the subtitle is Mob Justice and Police in Petrograd. Are you having trouble hearing me? More trouble than usual over the air conditioning? Let's turn that on, see if that's any clearer. So this is all about Petrograd. Russians from all walks of life poured into the streets of the imperial capital after the February Revolution of 1917, joyously celebrating the end of Tsar Nicholas II's monarchy. 1 year later, with Lenin's Bolsheviks now in power, Petrograd's deserted streets presented a very different scene. No celebrations marked the revolution's anniversary. Amid widespread civil strife and lawlessness, a fearful citizenry stayed out of sight. So this book will be about that year, that crucial year. Interesting, very good. I admit, at the beginning of 2017, I was predicting ruefully that it wouldn't take much for me to be fed up with books about the Russian Revolution, but it's bringing out the best in a lot of its writers. So I am by no means surfeited of it yet. So let's see here. What's this next one? I've read a lot of books on the subject of 2017, and 2017 is only half over. So what have we got here? There's another one from Harvard University Press. This comes out in late September, and it is called Liberalisms, Religion. Liberal societies conventionally treat religion as unique under the law, requiring both special protection, as in guarantees of free worship, and special containment to keep religion and state separate. But recently, this idea that religion requires a legal exception has come under fire from those who argue that religion is no different from any other conception of the good, and the state should treat all such conceptions according to the principles of neutrality and equal liberty. Cecile Laborde, probably didn't do that justice. She's the Nuffield Chair of Political Theory at the University of Oxford, agrees with much of this liberal egalitarian critique. But she argues that a simple analogy between the good and religion misrepresents the complex relationships among religion, law, and the state. Religion serves as more than a statement of belief about what is true, or a code of moral and ethical conduct. It also refers to the comprehensive ways of life, political theories of justice, and modes of voluntary association and vulnerable collective identities. Cecile and I are going to have issues. What on earth is a vulnerable collective identity? What does that mean? I bet I can guess what Cecile is going to say that means. She's going to say that the collective identities in question are vulnerable because they'll be unhappy if you tell them their God doesn't exist, or isn't important, or can't be proved, or shouldn't be my problem. I bet that's what she's going to say the vulnerability is. Disaggregating religion into its various dimensions, as the author does, has two clear advantages. First, it shows greater respect for ethical and social pluralism by ensuring that whatever treatment religion receives from the law, it receives because of features that it shares with non-religious beliefs, conceptions, and identities. Oh my God Almighty. Oh my God Almighty. Whatever treatment religion receives from the law, it receives because features of it shares with non-religious beliefs. Uh-huh. Okay. Great. So I don't even know where to start. If the public libraries in America had been consciously engaged, if the directors of the public libraries in America had been consciously engaged for decades in a very articulated and very intentional scheme to shuttle known sexual predators from one library district to the next when one library district became too hot for them, move them somewhere else, but don't tell that somewhere else anything about them. Just move them in there, and then when that gets too hot, too many children who go missing for an all-important hour in the children's section, then move that librarian somewhere else in the system. And don't tell the new place either. If the libraries of America had done that, they would all be out of business right now. There'd be parking lots where those buildings once were, and every single person involved would be in jail for life. The Catholic Church did that. No question, no interpretation. They factually, legally did that. And the only reason the Catholic Church is still around is because of those vulnerable collective identities. I know the parents of children in Alabama and Texas and Arkansas. I know 3 different groups of parents whose children are being taught in school that the world was created in 6 days by an invisible being, a supernatural, magical being. They're not being taught that in religion classes. They're being taught that in science. Their science classes are teaching them that the world is 6,000 years old and was created magically. If a non-religious homeschooling syndicate tried to do that, they would be out of business before the ink was dry on their contract. But this book wants to say that disaggregating religion shows greater respect for the ethical and social pluralism by ensuring that whatever treatment religion receives from the law, it receives because of features it shares with non-religious beliefs. What would those features be, I wonder? So, Cecile, oh my. All right. I was actually kind of thinking, before I started, that maybe we wouldn't rant this time around. Let's just move on, shall we? Let's move on to this next one and see what it is. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. Now, see, there won't be any ranting about this at all. This is the beautiful finished copy of a book that I have read since I got the advanced copy. This is by Linnea Hartsukier. I'm massacring names here. This comes out in August, I think. Yes, on August 1st, and it's The Half-Drowned King. It's a historical novel and the author's debut, and as a debut, it is an absolutely stunning achievement. It's a historical novel about the Vikings. Let me read you a bit of it. Ragnvald Eisenston, descendant of kings, grew up believing that he would one day take his dead father's place as chief of his family's lands. But sailing home from a raiding trip to Ireland, the young warrior is betrayed and left for dead by men in the pay of his greedy stepfather Olaf. Rescued by a fisherman, Ragnvald is determined to avenge his stepfather's betrayal, claim his birthright and the woman he loves, and rescue his beloved sister. Opportunity may lie with Harold of Vestfold, a young warrior prophesied to one day rule all of Norway. The author clearly delves into the Heimskringla and a whole bunch of other stuff. She clearly delves into a whole bunch of quasi-historical folklore and whatnot, but the book she comes up with when she's done, and I think it might be the first in a trilogy. I haven't actually studied. I remember reading it and loving it, but I haven't studied the author's press, so I'm not really sure. But the novels that she comes up with, that she makes out of all of that material, you absolutely can't miss it. As a historical novel, let alone as a historical novel debut, you absolutely can't miss it. So good. No vulnerable collective identities here. There's just a good old-fashioned Viking novel. And you know, one of the nicest things about it, one of the best, most memorable things about it, is that it isn't just about the man out there with his broadsword and his axe and his quest for bloody vengeance. It's also about the women back at home. And I thought, when I first got to that part of the beginning of the book, I thought, oh my God, this is a sop to modern sensibilities. These women, you're going to have them go to war or something totally anachronistic. But the author makes that part, if anything, more interesting than the high seas adventure. I just can't recommend it high enough. Good. All right, let's move on. Let's go on to this next one here. Okay. All right. This is from Da Capo Press. This is not anything that I recommended or that I requested. It's due out in September. It's by Kent Hartman, and it's called Goodnight, L.A. The Rise and Fall of Classic Rock. The untold story from inside the legendary recording studios. Oh my, this is perfect for one of you and not for me. This is a perfect example of, in my mind, the crazy crackpot hypothetical that I have in my mind is that we are actually opening this mail physically together. There's some sort of gigantic Viking mead hall. And before we all sit down to a meal, and then a whole evening of talking about books, before that, we all open the mail together. And the books just go right away to their correct recipients. I am the correct recipient for a large number of, you all know this, a large spectrum of books. I will read anything with great interest. And I will read this with interest too, but I'm clearly not the perfect reader for this, and one of you clearly is. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go on to this next one here. We don't want this video to be too long, now do we? Told that videos longer than 20 minutes are anathema, and we're getting there. All right, so this next one is it's a novel by Ivy Pachoda called Wonder Valley, by the author of Visitation Street, which I read and liked. So from the acclaimed author of Visitation Street, a visionary and masterful portrait of contemporary Los Angeles in all its facets. Again, we're back to LA. From the Mojave Desert to the Pacific, from the 110 to Skid Row, featuring a stunning cast of misfits and lost souls. See, once again, I mean, I liked Visitation Street, so I'm of course interested to read this thing. But I freely admit that LA is not one of those cities. I know that people lose their hearts to it, and it's not one of those cities that's ever had that effect on me. So a book that promises to be a quintessential LA novel would clearly better go to somebody other than me. This is the way it goes, especially now that I didn't think this so pointedly before I knew the rest of you were all out there. Now that I do, it's always in the back of my mind. But anyway, let's move on. Let's keep going. What is this next one? Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. This is it's another historical fiction, and it looks very promising. I haven't actually read this one, but it's by an author I have read, and you will all know her. This is Jennifer Chiavarini, and this latest one is Enchantress of Numbers, and it's about Ada Lovelace, who was the daughter of Lord Byron. As you see here, the only legitimate child of Lord Byron, the most brilliant, revered, and scandalous of the Romantic poets. Well, that's nice. The most brilliant. I totally agree, but I've never heard anyone say that in the 21st century. He beats all the others easily. And yet, who would ever say that in 2017, who would ever say that Lord Byron is more brilliant than Coleridge? And yet he was. So I mean, didn't even get through the first sentence. Good Lord. How do you people put up with me? Ada was destined for fame long before her birth. Estranged from Ada's father, who was infamously mad, bad, and dangerous to know, called that by a woman who was barking mad, so we'll take it with a grain of salt. Ada's mathematician mother is determined to save her only child from her perilous Byron heritage. Banishing fairy tales and make-believe from the nursery, Ada's mother provides her daughter with a rigorous education grounded in mathematics and science. Any troubling spark of imagination, or worse yet, passion or poetry, is promptly extinguished, or so her mother believes. Now, doesn't that sound good? I can't off the top of my head remember that Ada Lovelace has ever had a historical novel before. She certainly hasn't had one in a long time. So I'm looking forward to this. It comes out at the very end of the year. Let's move on. That 20-minute mark is swiftly approaching. Although, I've also heard plenty of you say that in my case you don't mind if a video goes longer than 20 minutes. So I don't know where we are. The next one is huge. It's the new Faye Kellerman. It's Killing Season. I requested this because it sounds really, really good. 4 years ago, 15-year-old Ellen Vicksburg went missing in the quiet town of River Remes, New Mexico. Ellen was kind, studious, and universally liked. Her younger brother Ben could imagine nothing worse than never knowing what happened to her until, on the first anniversary of her death, her body is found in a shallow grave by the river's edge. Ben, now 16, is committed to finding the monster who abducted and strangled Ellen. Police believe she was the victim of a psychopath known as the Demon, but Ben, a math geek too smart for his high school classes, continues to pore over the evidence at the local police station, gaining an unlikely ally in his school's popular new girl, Rio Majors. In his sister's files, Ben's analytical mind sees patterns that don't fit, tiny threads that he adds to the clues from other unsolved murders. As the body count rises, a picture emerges of an adversary who is cunning and methodical as he is twisted. That sounds great anyway, and also I love when these authors go long, Faye Kellerman or her husband. I love it when they do longer works. But the thing I love most about both of them is how they write teenagers. Because you might think that's an odd thing for a murder mystery writing duo. And certainly their main character, Alex Delaware, is not a teenager. But in both their novels, Faye Kellerman and her husband, the teenagers, young people who have not yet reached maturity, they have not ever fired a gun or even held one, are consistently portrayed with a very pleasing complexity, and I love that. I love that in part because it's rare. So I can't wait to get to this. And this comes out in October. And then we get to the last one. This is our last one. For now. Oh, goodness. The last one's fighting me. And every second counts because we're getting closer to 20 minutes. Fortunately, we have scissors right at hand, though some of you scoffed. So what is this last one? Oh, great. Okay, this is the finished copy of a book that I was very skeptical of when I got the advanced copy, and then I read it and loved it. And I want to read it again. I actually sailed through it, so I want to read it again. It's called The Future Won't Be Long by Jarrett Kodik. And it's... see if I can... It's a portrait of a bygone era, of a bygone New York. It's a very popular thing to do, not just for City on Fire, but also Bed-Stuy is Burning and a bunch of other books. And also nonfiction books. There's a nostalgia setting in for a bygone New York that some of us who are actually there find a little confusing, although I feel it too. Even though the New York that I'm actually thinking of when I feel nostalgic was, by any objective measurement, a rat-infested cesspit. Anyway, when Adeline, a wealthy art student, chances upon a young man from the Midwest known only as Baby in a shady East Village squat, the two begin a fiery friendship that propels them through a decade of New York life. In the apartments and bars of downtown Manhattan to the infamous nightclub of the Limelight, Adeline is Baby's guardian angel, introducing to a city not yet overrun by gentrification. That's the common theme in all of these things. They hate gentrification, no matter what. Even if it's a crack epidemic that gentrification is replacing, doesn't matter. They live through an era of New York punctuated by the deaths of Warhol, Basquiat, Wojnarowicz, and Thompson Square Park. Adeline is fiercely protective of Baby, even bringing him home with her to Los Angeles, again with Los Angeles. Good Lord. But he soon takes over his own education. Once just a kid off the bus from Wisconsin, baby relishes ketamine-fueled clubbing nights and acid days in L.A. And he falls deep into the club kid twilight zone of sexual excess. So this comes out soon, I think. This is the finished copy. Very happy to have it. This comes out when does this come out? August? Okay, I'm only going to look for so long. It's your job to tell me. There we go. Oh, yes, mid-August. So I can already vouch for it, but I will read it again and see what I missed the first time. So there you go. That is, we're a little over the 20-minute mark, but there is The Future Won't Be Long, The Half-Drowned King. Do we have any other hardcovers? No. Okay. Good Night, L.A., Wonder Valley, Enchantress of Numbers, Crime and Punishment in the Russian Revolution, Killing Season by Faye Kellerman, and Liberalism's Religion for a gigantically varied mail haul. Very nice. With an LA theme running through it. That's very odd. So I'll sign off for now, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.